Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Cars Channels podcast, episode 2, with me, Jason Andrews, and Courtney Myers. What's up, guys?
Episode 2.
So too.
And real quick, before we begin, Courtney, I wanted to tell you something that happened at the track before you got there. So last episode, we started to talk about how Mario likes to make excuses, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we invite Eugene with the Dark Horse, and he comes because not that you guys were like calling him out, but we wanted to see if the car was really that fast, right? So I'm with Eugene. We walk over and talk to Mario, and so I'm like, "Hey Mario, how fast do you think you're going to go today?" And then it's like, "Oh, I got this clunking in my rear end. My car's making this weird noise. I don't know. I'm maybe not going to push it." It's a true story.
I believe
right
that.
off the bat. It's very funny.
That. See, Mario, you should have saved those excuses because you put down a pretty good lap. What do you have to say?
Well, I got to keep the book fresh. The book of excuses needs new material. But in all seriousness, when we had left the track the prior week, on my way back, I texted Courtney and John, and I, at some point, like, I don't know if I downshifted or what, and as soon as I let off the throttle, I heard like clunk, and I was like, maybe I ran over something, and then it did it like 3 or 4 more times on the way home. I drove it a few times throughout the week, and like it was intermittent. Anthony came over on the weekend. He drove my car for a while, and then he's like, "Oh no, it's not really doing it." And we turned around, and on the way back, he heard it, and he was like, "Dude, I don't know." So we brought the car back to the garage, put it up in there. We were shaking the exhaust, drive shaft, diff. Like, we couldn't find anything like obviously wrong or anything glaring. So I just said, if it happens on the track, we'll know. But no. So anyway, we get to the track, and Jason's like, "So Mario, do you think you're gonna get passed by the Dark Horse today?" Like, he was like, before he even say hello to me, it's like the first thing he said. And I was like, I don't know. Strangest things have happened, but luckily for me, I was able to do a lap that I think a lot of people didn't think I could put together. Because right or wrong, every time I was at the track, the car was never perfect, but this time the car was just on rails. And so
props to you for getting out there when your car's like not potentially at 100%. Like, I don't know if it's my OCD or something, but if there was like anything weird with the car, no way I would have been out there. Check engine light, a sound, something. I'm kind of weird like that. Courtney, what about you? You send it or what?
I have check engine light because we have these janky mid pipes on now that throw in a cat sensor. I have weird sounds with my car all the time, and I judge it based on lap time. Like, if I'm slow or feel clunky, I'm gonna send it to the moon. That's just because I don't know if you guys have seen the Instagram reel that's been going around. It's like when something OEM breaks, like, oh no, whatever. Like, yeah, that's kind of my philosophy. It's like, if I break it, I'm just going to upgrade it. Yeah, so that's me. But on the let's stick on this Dark Horse for a second. Those are, I was kind of like, when they first came out, I'm like, and this is calling Anthony out, like, GT350 the world, but I kind of like that Dark Horse. I really like that Dark Horse.
What do you like about it?
So when I sat in there, I don't know. I just think it looks good and it sounds good. Yeah, real funny too. Like, we were all kind of hanging out, and I had just met Eugene. I probably saw him at another track day. But like, I said hello, shook his hand, and we were talking about each other's cars. I said, "Dude, that Dark Horse is sweet. Can I go check it out?" So I go in there, and like, I sit in there, then I turn it on and I start revving it. And he's like, "Hey man, I said you could look." And so realized that probably wasn't car show etiquette, but I did tell him, I said, "Hey, you got a cheap track day, so let me rev your car." But no, I don't, something about him, I just like it. And that's a very sophisticated answer, I know, but
yeah, when I drove it, it really felt a lot more muted than the GT350.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the 350, it just felt like more lively, more fun. Maybe it's because I'm used to the raspy Voodoo motor. And obviously Eugene's car is an automatic, so that's going to change the driving dynamic a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. I wasn't really that impressed. But then he like goes out there and he's setting like pretty good laps out there.
Yeah.
And like at all the autocross stuff, I mean, he's like cleaning up. I mean, he's not like winning every event, but every time I've been out there with him, he's like been seconds faster than me.
Well, yeah. Well,
I didn't say anything.
No. Well, what I have, speaking of the track day, what I have learned is having fuel helps you go quicker. And the best part, and Jason, I'll let you tell your story because that's a good story and it involves you setting a good lap time too. But the best part to me is like how I was kind of playing cat and mouse with Alex, the M3 who's ungodly fast, and we just drove by you once. I'm like, huh, what's Jason doing over here? And then like we come around and like Jason's still there. I'm like, huh, what's Jason doing here hanging out? So then finally they black flagged us off. But yeah, so tell us what happened, Jason.
Well, I mean, yeah, I'm out there. I knew I wasn't going to stay after lunch. It's too hot for me, you know, and I got the kid and stuff. I don't want to be gone all day, right? So I'm out there for the morning. This is the last session before we go to lunch and I'm going to leave, and it's getting hotter and hotter. And I swear my car, like when I went out for that session, I swear it had like a half tank of fuel, you know? And so I'm driving, maybe I did 6-7 laps. I'm just getting faster and faster and faster. And finally, like the track is pretty clear. I'm like, okay, here we go, right? This is going to be it, or I'm going to go off the track. It's like not a big deal. And sure enough, like run a pretty good lap. And then like right before the last turn, my car like starts sputtering. I go into that whatever turn one, and it's just like completely cut out. And then a half second later, I saw 119 on the lap timer. So it was like, and then my car just like limped to the side, like I couldn't go anymore. So funny. I mean, maybe the car out of fuel is a little bit lighter. I guess that could maybe make you go faster.
I mean, I've thought about that. Like I always in theory, they're like, yeah, you're going to be faster with this or you're going to be faster with that. I don't know that any of us are fast enough that half a tank of fuel is going to cut seconds off our lap time.
Yeah, I don't either. What I really realized at the last track day, and especially watching my footage back, is, you know, the Alfa Romeo, it doesn't have any power steering. So for the last 5 or so years that I've been tracking a car, you know, we're just like smooth is fast, you know, like our inputs really smooth. And then like I started driving the Alfa a little bit more aggressive. I'm like, I like gotta like wind up and like crank this wheel to like get it to go where I want it to. And I think being more aggressive on the steering, I mean, that car might have 2 more seconds in it, honestly. Like, just, I'm not really used to, like, working a steering wheel like I'm having to do. And you can see, like, on the video, like, the first session out there, I'm trying to drive like a normal car, you know, just nice and smooth. And then, like, by the end, I'm like, oh, I got a right turn. Let me, like, wind up on the wheel so I can get enough grip on it. I've never tracked a car. Obviously, I've been in the Alfa for 2 years, but every time you get out there, you learn more and you get more confident, and there's just so much grip in that car. I was like, I really got to work the wheel to get the most out of it, I think.
Yeah, need a big wing on that thing.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, probably.
I mean, there are 2 factors when it comes to the fuel. So personally, I like to, my drive to the firm is about 2 hours. So I will leave my house with a full tank, which puts me at the firm with a little over half a tank. And so when it's the coolest out, when you first get there, at least in the summers, and I've tested this like full tank versus half a tank versus quarter tank, I will be able to get through the morning in a half a tank. And I think when it comes to the tires, is probably the most benefit. Is not necessarily that you get faster because of less fuel, but you're asking less of the tires with the weight because, you know, fuel's heavy. The lap I set with my personal best, I had a little under a half a tank because I had done 1 session. I came in, adjusted tire pressures, and went back out. So I did 2-3 laps, came in, checked tire pressures, went out, warm up lap, semi push lap, and then full push lap, and that's when I set my personal best.
Nice.
And that seems to work for me. Like maybe that's why my tires last a while, because I try not to ask a lot of the tire. But then when I go fuel up at lunchtime, I'll fill it up completely, and I'll just, again, the afternoon session for me is not like, oh, because it's too hot. You're not going to beat your morning times. So that's more like my quote unquote endurance. And And when it comes to steering, I think every car likes to be driven a little bit different. Like you have a lot of cars, especially with your Alfa, Jason. I think being rear engine, like you get to swing it a lot with a lot of firmer or more direct steering versus I feel like the Mustang were so front end heavy that like if you do too much with the steering wheel, you'll scrub a lot of speed off. We'll talk about the BRZ in a second. But
I've never felt the Alfa understeer.
Right. So
Not once,
it needs more.
Yeah.
It needs more.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about the BRZ in a second, but the steering angle sensor broke, which meant we had no power steering. And so I did one session in the BRZ and I was out there like just having to crank this thing. And I got in the Mustang and the first turn, I almost went off because it was so like the difference was so big. And it felt like I was like in a, I don't know, it's hard to describe. Like I just, it was my outlap. Had just gone left for turn 1. And then I went up to go to turn 2, 3, and I moved the steering wheel to the right. And like, I almost spun the car around because my input was so hard, but it's just that muscle memory for a couple laps. So yeah, no power steering. It's no joke.
Yeah. We're talking about weight. I mean, I at 1140 with 3/4 of a tank and a passenger, I set my best lap. So maybe I need more weight. Maybe my corner balance is off.
It could be.
Yeah, because I threw my 200-pound brother in the passenger seat and I ran a second faster than I did before. Maybe I was just trying to show off and was more aggressive.
Yeah, that's probably it.
Yeah.
We should get like a really hot model to sit in your car and then you try to impress her,
Yeah.
That'd be good content.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's try that. But no, when I was happy at close to lunchtime because I feel like all 3 of us had set a good lap. And I remember when Jason ran out of gas, he actually had to let me by at turn 2. I think that's when you started to notice that something was wrong. And it's the second time where I'm on a lap and I happened to catch somebody at that spot. And I think in my opinion, it would be more dangerous to abort the lap instead of sending it down the inside. Because I think Jason saw me immediately and he pointed me by and I didn't have to ask twice. I just sent it. And I guess maybe somebody at the firm, like if they know us, right? Like they know we're there all the time. We know what we're doing. But the first time I did it, I actually got a talking to because I don't remember the story well, but there was an instructor in the car ahead of me. And the instructor told the driver to point me by at that spot. So you get a point by, you're in a lap, you're going to send it. But then they came and talked to me when I came in. It's like, oh, you can't do that there. And then the instructor went on my behalf and said, like, no, I told the guy to point him there. But when I saw something was wrong with Jason's car, I went around. And then the next time I passed him, he was pulled over on the leading up to turn 4. And then I get like Siri starts reading to me. Jason said, ran out of gas, send help. And I'm trying to tell Siri, like, okay, I'm going to send help. But because of my helmet, it couldn't hear me. It wouldn't pick up the microphone.
Oh, that's funny.
So then I sped up. Probably should have done that on a back flag. But to get in, because I knew what was wrong with him. Like, I'm sure there was some, car broke down. But I was like, no, just bring a gas can and he'll be fine. Yeah. But then they decided to tow him. But yeah, that's kind of funny nevertheless.
Yeah.
I think that was my first time ever, like, kind of getting stranded out on a hot track before. I wasn't 100%. I mean, I just sit there and wait. Like, I was reading through some of the comments on my video, and people are like, dude, you should not have taken your helmet off. I was like, oh, yeah, I guess that's probably right.
Yeah.
That's true.
Knowing me, I probably would have jumped out with the camera and really...
Hey, guys.
Well, no, because there was a guy that died at Daytona, right? Because he, going in, like, he unhooked and took his helmet off and stuff and just got T-boned. So yeah, I've heard that story a couple times. And I mean, I was running with an instructor in an advanced group at PCA back whenever I was there, and my car, we were having trouble with the alternator or the little anti-gravity battery cut out or something. Like, I had lost I had no electronics at all going down the straight, like at 140. Lost, like, car shut off. I had nothing. And Like, so that was kind of sketchy, but like I was going fast enough that I was able to scrub enough speed to get around. And then there's a if you guys have ever been there, there's this little runoff that you can pull in. It takes you in infield, right?
Hmm.
So barely got there, and like I was with this instructor who does semi-professional racing and has raced for 30 years and just knows his stuff. He just wanted to ride with me in the car. He wasn't I didn't have an instructor for that day, but he was, I think he was John's instructor and wanted to ride with me out in the higher group. And I started to take my seatbelt off. He's like, no. He's like, we're in a sketchy spot. He's like, he's like, you leave all this stuff on, we get hit, you'll live. And he's like, if not, no guarantees. And it makes sense, because that's why we wear all this stuff when we're out there driving. And it can be just as bad for a car hitting you when you're stranded.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
Daytona
good lessons to be
incident.
learned.
Sorry, I was just that Daytona. I was supposed to be there that day, and I ended up going on a trip to Georgia. And I was through, I think it was Audi Club of America that put up the event, and I paid extra for a garage at Daytona, the whole nine. And I remember, I think it was like a work thing or something, and I was able to cancel like in time to get a refund.
Mm-hmm.
And but they never removed me from like the event notifications. So I'm in Atlanta or wherever I was, and my phone starts going off from like the actual event notifications, like ambulances on the way, like all these things. And I was like, what happened? Like, I've never been at I've done so many track days, but nothing bad ever happened. And then I messaged some of the people that were there, and I learned that that's what had happened.
Wild.
Very well.
Yeah.
But back to our track day, I think.
Happy subjects. We're all safe.
Happy subjects.
Broke. Except the BRZ's broke, because I was about to go out in my inaugural lap in the BRZ. I was in the cool suit. I had my helmet. I had my Hans. I was ready to go. Mario's in there hooking my little cool suit up, which would have been awesome, except it never went on. So I was just like baking in this neoprene. In the 117 degree temp and neoprene. It was a good time, and Zach's sweat. So my testosterone levels probably went up 3.
Way up. Yeah.
And flip on the ignition, flip on the fuel pump, start it, and it's just like grumbling. I'm like, I look over, I'm like, this is aggressive. I thought race car, it has this like loud idle. But no, the intake manifold cracked. So that was the aggressive idle. It was not supposed to be that way, apparently.
Yeah. So we have a race team. A bit of a plug here, but it's called Apex Experience, and we built a 2017, I believe, Subaru BRZ TS edition. But we put a Honda K24 engine in it, and that happened to be the first time the car saw the track. It was like the first official shakedown. The week prior, when I rode with Courtney in his car, his lap he did, his driving impressed me so much that when I got back, I was like, hey, would you like to join the team and drive with us? I was so impressed with Courtney. It was like a mini audition, and he didn't know he was doing it. And so I talked to Zach, and I said, listen, we need an extra driver, and I think he's it. And then we're standing by the BRZ, and Courtney walks up with his Garmin, and he goes, here's my other audition, and he hands me the Garmin, and he hits play, and his 15.0 lap that day. And I just turned to him and I said, welcome to the team. I walked up to Zach and I said, I think we should put Courtney in the car today. And he said, let's do it. So I did my session. Zach did his. And then we suited up Courtney, went through the paces. This is this, Hans, cool suit. And then when he started the car, it's idling at like 4,000 RPM. And I was like, Courtney, take your foot off the pedal. Yeah. And I looked down, his foot was not on the pedal. The car was just idling like crazy. We popped the hood and there is like a 2-inch hole in the throttle body adapter into the manifold. And I was like, that's it, pack it up. And then the water pump wasn't coming on, but there was nothing wrong. It's just the car flows so well that the ECU wasn't telling the water pump to come on. Zach did a phenomenal job with this car. So not the 28th, I believe, I told Courtney we're going to go back out to the track and the first one to hit the track is going to be him. So welcome to Apex Experience, Courtney.
Happy to be on the team. I am very excited about that. It was never a goal of mine. Like, I was just doing this for fun, and but you know, this is the next step, and a little wheel to wheel.
Yeah,
sounds like a good time to me.
It's amazing how, like, this little hobby of ours, there's no end. And I'm sure, and I actually feel like, as far as experimenting, Jason was probably the most with, like, you know, he had the Mustang and he said, like, no, I'm going to get rid of this, you know, super powerful heavy car for this very light car. Like, such a big difference. And then you love your S2000. And I'm kind of stuck in no, I'm not going to modify the Mustang until I can go the fastest. And then here's Courtney, like, full beans, all the mods, all the parts, whatever it takes, we're going to go fast. So it's so, there's not one way to go about it.
Well, they say you can't buy a fast slap.
Listen, you were going pretty fast.
That's what they say.
Yeah, no, like I remember when we did that day, there's like that video, like I watched it again the other day, just like so much fun. And I remember, like, at 6 a.m. at my house when we were trying to load the trailer, and you have that like trailer shot, and we never got it on the trailer because the trailer didn't work. That's behind the scenes that nobody knows.
That's right.
And like I went out there and ran, like, with all that stuff, brand new stickered slicks, and just ran a 118 or something. I'm like, oh man, paid like thousands of dollars for half a second, and then I pulled 3 seconds out of my ass somehow, and don't know. I think I really, if you go watch that video, I'm like, I guess I just need more seat time, and that's really all it was. It's like just driving more. Like Jason, I believe that car does, no doubt your Alfa has more time in it, because when you were going on your hot lap and you weren't letting me pass, I'm like, what is this guy doing? But I wasn't like up on your tail. You were carving through the corners faster, you know, on some of them, and no, your car definitely has more time. So I think this is my unsolicited advice. I think a couple more track days in it, you'll be pretty quick.
Yeah, no, I would agree. It also takes a lot of time getting used to the turbo car. You know, I'm still like, I'm having to think a second and a half before I want to accelerate. That's when I need to press the gas, you know, because that's what it takes, you know, and it's just seat time and trusting the car, really.
Yeah, no, talking about the turbo thing is, our friend Jeff, he has that silver M3, and I drove it after yeah, you were probably gone, but I drove it after lunch, and really, actually, I was surprised by that. That was actually the first time I've ever driven a BMW, and he let me take it on the track, and I mean, I didn't do a blistering lap. I did like a 121 or something, but on some pretty bad tires and a heavy boat car. But that was the thing I was fighting too. Like, the acceleration was great. Actually, even for how heavy it was and no big wing holding you down, I was still able to go around like turn 4 close to 80 miles an hour. Like, it was a good planted car. And I think I know I can see why guys like track BMWs now, because like they're good cars, right? Mario's over there shaking with like PTSD when I say they're good cars. He's like,
hang on.
He's like, I had to mortgage my house. I got mortgaged. No, I'm kidding. But that's what I was fighting too. Is like, this thing planted well, but I would hit the gas on it in apex like I normally would with my car, and it's like I'm out of the apex before like the turbo kicks in. So I didn't drive it enough to have to develop a, hey, I need to accelerate first strategy. Like, you know, you're fighting through now because it's obviously your car and you're going to track it again. I wasn't too worried about it, but I can definitely see that when the guy asked me, he's like, what do you think of the car? The first thing I said was, dude, it's planted. It's great. But that turbo lag sucks. That's what I said. I mean, not even knowing that was your problem either. I said that.
Yeah. And especially, I mean, because when you want that power, you're like mid-turn, so you're already fighting G's, and now you're saying, oh, but I still need to accelerate even sooner than that. My buddy Mike with that 600 horsepower S2000 with the big turbo on it, I mean, he's an okay driver, I think, but like that car will never go fast because you just can't control that type of power band. It's like nothing, 600 horsepower. It's like, how can you modulate like around a turn or something with that? I don't think that's the way. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so like there are guys out there like who is it, Serpent Stangs or something like that. He has this GT500 that's time attack and blah blah blah, but I mean that's supercharged. There's a lot of boosted track cars that are like, if you want to get fast on time attack, you got to boost your car, right? But I think most of them are supercharged, I think.
Yeah, I mean, who's the fastest? Ferris, right? With his C6.
Yeah, that's twin turbo.
Right, but I don't think that car would be very fast at a track like the Firm. I mean, that car needs a lot of room to run. I think.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. I'm not taking anything away from the guy. He's obviously a fantastic driver and a crazy ass car. But when I look at that car, I think Top Gear or Motor Trend, they did a video with a GTR at the Firm. Did you guys see that? Maybe like a year and a half ago, they rented the Firm. They brought their production team. They brought this crazy GTR that was like fully built, full aero or something. And then like you watch the lap, and my comments like, not any aero was used on this lap. Like it's just not fast enough for cars like that. I think obviously Courtney, you guys are fast, but I don't know. I mean, Ferris isn't going to come out there and run a 108 or something. There's no way.
Yeah, I mean, there has been 108s at that track, but I think most of them are. There was that marble Lambo, which I mean, I haven't seen that car, but obviously that's quick. But then the other ones that I see running those kind of times are like the Formula 3 and 4 cars and the Ariel Adams and stuff like that. That's who's running those low tens times, and that's just power to weight. Because I mean, if you watch like, there's a video of a guy in some pro driver in a Formula 2 or Formula 3 or 4 car out there running like a 109, and it's just that acceleration and the downforce that can hold you through, turn 4, for example, and the rest of them. But when you have that initial torque and that get up and go, that's what wins out there. So. I think I said to Mario when I hit another 115, I'm like, I'm not going to go through another like if a I want to run a 14. My optimal is a 14.8, and I was like, yeah, that would be pretty damn cool in a Mustang to run a 14. I think that's getting in big boy lap times at the Firm. But at the same time, who gives a shit? Like, nobody's online bragging about I ran a 1 whatever at the Firm. It's like the same 7 guys that go to the Firm. Yeah, other than this guy. Like you'll see, hey, I put a 155 at Road Atlanta, or I did a 207 at Sebring, or I did a 158 at Daytona. Some of that stuff. That's what you see. Nobody, the guys that are doing that don't care about the Firm. So, but
with that said, I think the Firm has been a very good testing track because it has a few different things that some other tracks have. But I was really impressed to see that our cars could hit those times.
Sure.
And my question, because ever since I posted my lap this week, I can appreciate some people have written me like privately instead of like talking smack online. They're like, I know you won the fastest, like you won the lap record for a stock Mustang at the Firm, but your car's not stock. You're not on factory tires. I can concede that because stock would mean no modifications, right? Where I slightly disagree, or I would say I have no power adders, I have no added downforce, and I'm heavier than stock because I have the roll bar that is like 120 pounds.
And you're fat.
I'm in the soccer off season. Thank you. But so, if anything, I think it's comparable to stock. Like, of course, tires make a big difference. And I tried 3 sets of brand new Cup 2s that I was never able to drive into the 16s like I did with the Pirellis. The 17s was the best I ever did on Cup 2s. So fair, like I can concede that. But I think the fact that, and the people who've told me these things are like, I don't want to say like they're not fast drivers. I think they're the people who think they're just hating a little bit, because I've had, again, I don't want to name drop on the podcast, but I've had people very, very good that have written me and said, dude, what a lap. And they've given me like, hey, try to do this, you'll find a 10th here and here, which of course I want to hear that feedback. So I don't know of any other stock Mustang in the 16s. And I actually know that GT500s are actually so heavy, like they can't get anywhere close to a 17 at the firm, just because they never get to stretch their legs. At a Sebring Daytona, the GT500 is the faster car, but I was just so happy to be able to get that lap in, and I know that there is more in it, and I might go Saturday to try to do it.
I find that hard to believe that if one of us or one of you guys was in a 500, you wouldn't be able to turn a good time. Those cars are fast, and I don't know, like the guys that are you seen out there. I've only seen guys like older guys, driving their 500s at the firm that have no track experience. I've never seen like a guy legitimately go for a lap out there.
Yeah. No, I mean, so if you look at the guys out there that are running like big boy times in a Mustang platform, it's all 500s with suspension mods. Like, I think that's a faster. I mean, obviously it's a faster platform because it's 200 extra horsepower, but the thing we're talking about is, yeah, it's heavy, it can't turn as well. Well, you can take weight out of a car and you can add suspension, and I think if you do that, you have a good car.
I'm trying to figure out how to share this screen here for a second, but
we should rent a 500 and take it to the firm and see. I bet it would be pretty fast.
So this document hasn't been updated in, looks like, 4 years. And I know that the lap record, the 108 by that Lamborghini, is not on here. But if you look at the cutoff of the times that Corey and I have done, so I know Corey went 15.0, which would put him in the top, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We'll say 12 because we know there's been a couple of quicker lap times. But in the top 15 of lap times ever at the firm, this is where Courtney would slot, right? And I would be right here, 69. So in the top 30 times ever at the firm. But when you look at the tires, the only street tire I see here is this a street tire? I think this is a street tire, because if it says stock tire, everything else was on a slick. So I think, again, the difference that tires make is huge. But I don't know. I think, and again, you see names here like is Jordan Taylor. I mean, a professional IMSA driver on a comparable platform to ours, running 10 to 15 degrees cooler than we did, and he did a 15.4. So I think I've always said it. I think Courtney's car is a 13-second car at the firm, and a 13. And I honestly believe Courtney's gonna do that when the temperatures get cooler outside, because we were also trying to do this in 80-degree weather plus.
It was hot. Yeah, I mean, I was talking to Alex, right? And I know he's ran a 13.9
is his best time.
13.9 in his M3, and I just made some comment like, "Oh damn, it's hot out here today" or something. He's like, yeah. He's like, my goal today is a 14.999. So a full second off his best because it was hot. Mm-hmm. And he didn't even hit it. Like, I'm not talking shit because he's a better driver than I am, but he ran a 15.4 or 3. And now if you're watching this and I'm wrong, correct me. But he ran a mid 15s, and he's like, yeah, that's all the car was going to do today. And so heat takes a lot out. So if he's a second and a half slower in the heat, Mario, I think you might have a 15 in the cool, and I might have a 14 or 13, and Jason, you have a 17. You have a 17 sets now, so you may have a 16, 17 car too.
I think Jason's car will go 17, no problem. And the thing you were saying about how you were trying to like catch him, I went through that. It took me 2.5 laps because I could see him. Like he was like always 1 or 2 turns away, and I'm like, okay, hopefully he points me by. Like hopefully I would catch him in a good spot, and I just wasn't catching him. It took me 2.5 laps, and then I finally caught him. But yeah, like again, I think it's all seat time. I've done 70 laps at the firm in the last month, and I'm gonna try to add some this weekend. But but that's and I remember 3 weeks ago, Courtney watched one of my laps. It was like a 19 something, and I was on the bull tires. Page 17 of the Mario Book of Excuses.
Yeah.
And but Courtney watched the lap. He's like, dude, if you do that lap on yeah, there you go. If you do that lap on good tires, you'll be in a 16, and he was right. 16.9.
It's a huge difference.
Fastest Mustang at the firm. Stock weight, stock power.
Unofficial.
I submitted it for the official record. We'll see what John says. Because he did say if he wasn't tracked within my laps, it's not counted as official because it was tracked on the Garmin. But
I've heard that the Garmin. I've heard that the my laps aren't that accurate anyway. Is that true? Do you know?
Speaking of the Garmin, I wanted to mention this.
Yeah,
it's probably the best investment I've ever made when it comes to track equipment.
I agree.
I used to always have my Racebox Mini, which syncs with the phone, and I would record with a GoPro. And every time I would go through a session, like I couldn't look at the data immediately. Like, yeah, you could look on the phone, but like you couldn't watch your inputs or anything like that because my GoPro would always overheat or run out of battery, or it was never ideal. So I would get home, look at the footage, look at the data, and then be like, oh, next time I'm going to do this. And then I would go 2-3 weeks without going to the track, and like I just couldn't make any progress forward. Corey gets a Garmin, I get the Bug, and I get one as well. And the first time I went out there with it, I did a session, parked the car, rolled the windows up, turned on the AC, and I just sat there and watched my lap and looked at my data. Went back out, found like half a second, came back, watched the data. Yeah. It is the best investment. But the video, there you go. The video is the key element, because believe it or not, the data on the Racebox is actually pretty good. But the video, to be able to just watch it on the device right then and then, and like, oh, optimal this and this, do this. I haven't really tried the coaching feature. Like I think it's try to talk to me, but the Mustang is so loud that I can't really hear what it's saying. I know you compare it to Bluetooth, and then you'll be able to hear it through the car. Yeah. But to anybody out there, if you feel like you're kind of stuck and you want a quicker way to learn or to look at your data, I recommend the Garmin. I know it's a big investment. Nobody wants to spend $1,000 on something that you only use like when you go to the track. But I've tried them all. I've tried Harry's Lap Timer, HP Tuners, Racebox. I've tried them all. I love the Garmin.
And we're not even sponsored by Garmin yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. We're working on it. But no, like for real, one thing I noticed, it's like you'll go through, you watch your lap, and your optimal's off a little bit, and it'll say like opportunities, meaning like where can I improve my lap time? And it'll say like turn whatever against the wall. It'll be like you were faster when you braked 300 feet later, or that's too long. I'm not good with measuring.
10 meters later, whatever it says. Yeah.
There we go. If you were faster when you braked later. So then on your next lap, after you've reviewed it, you're like, okay, I'm going to try to brake here, and just keep pushing that brake zone in just a little bit to see where your optimal braking is. Then you can go back and watch. They're like, well, you were faster when you braked here and slower when you went a little further. So it gives you kind of feedback like that. It's like when you turned in at 80 miles an hour, you were faster than when you turned in at 92. You're like, that doesn't make sense, but then it'll show you the speed drop off on the curve, and it's super cool. Worth the investment.
Yeah.
Oh,
I was very, very happy.
I have my little Garmin case, and I have my stickers for my fenders.
Yeah, there you go.
The club.
So every time you swap tires, are you gonna take off the sticker and then put it back on?
Yeah, no. Damn, those things are so expensive. Shit.
Courtney's been kind enough to donate a set of Hoosiers to me for me to go out there and break some more records. The fastest Mustang at the firm with slicks only. Like, I'm just gonna keep coming up with like this ESPN, like, fastest driver to show up with, like, certain color of underwear. Like, I'm just gonna come up with all of them and just pat my resume.
How are you gonna get your tires there, though?
So big news. We have a garage at the firm.
Is your car there now, Courtney?
Mm-hmm.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, it's there now. That's where the tires are. So, I mean, I guess, Mario, you got to find a way to get them home, but or get them mounted.
Yeah. So I funny. I hope this is not a financial advice podcast by any means.
No, quite the opposite, in fact.
Courtney sends me a link to this wheels. It's like, oh, this is what I have. You should get these. I'm like, okay. So I ordered this set of wheels, delayed 7-8 weeks because they have to make them. Fine. And then Eugene sends me a message last week. And it's like, hey, man, I got this wheel thing going on. We'll talk to him about it when we have him on the podcast. But I ended up buying another set of wheels. So now I have 2 sets of wheels coming. One of them is going to be dedicated to the slicks that we have in the garage with Courtney, and then the other is probably so then did you guys meet what's his name? It's one of Anthony's friends that had the Miata, the one that was doing the raffle. Justin. I told him how I was struggling to get the Nankangs because there was this whole tire situation where they couldn't get him into the States, and he goes, I know a guy, wink. And I was like, oh, if your guy could get me a set of Nankangs V2s, I'd appreciate it. I get a message the next day. They're ordered. You'll have them the first week of September. Ooh. So now I have my stock wheels on my Pirellis. I'm gonna have the Apex wheels on the slicks, and the Nankangs on the wheels that I'm buying from Eugene. So,
wow.
Yeah.
I'm gonna warn you though. Like, when you start running those slicks, even though they're scrubs, you're gonna want them. That's why they call Hoosier Purple Crack, because like it's just a different experience. And like, I can't wait till like someday I'll probably end up, if I do some more mods and get us really turn it into a GT4 car with seam welds and cage and suspension and stuff, and maybe a little extra power. Like, I'll look to running a true slick, and that's when the addiction's really going to start. Is that when you're going to go 18s? That's what, yes, 16, 8 or something, 16.8.
No, I mean 18-inch wheels.
I thought you meant 18 seconds. I was like, what the fuck is that? No, so yeah, that's the other thing is, like, on these cars, they're 19s and nobody has a.
It's tough to get tires our size.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. But what is next for you, Jason? What do you think? Like, obviously, is there a lap time that you'd like to hit, and if you feel like you can do that with the car as it stands, or do you feel like you need any mods to try to help you get there?
The car's faster, seat time, cooler temperatures, I think would make a really big difference, especially on a turbo car. Yeah. That's a massive difference. But with Italy still on the horizon, I'm hesitant on like what I'm building, how much I'm dumping into the car, what I'm going to do with it when I move. So I'm having to play a few different angles, with content, with the car, with driving and things like that. So I don't really know. I'd love to put aero on the car. My buddy overseas GMS, I mean, he makes a big carbon fiber hatch with a massive ass wing and splitters and stuff. Like, could probably work all that stuff out. But then by the time I get it, I put it on. Now I'm moving overseas. What am I doing with the car? So I got too much to figure out before I really start making big plans with the car. I think a different seat in that car will make me faster also.
I remember the first time you were at the track saying, like, I feel like I'm sliding all over the place.
Yeah. This car doesn't have a lot of bolstering support on the side, so I am sliding all over the place.
Yeah, I believe that. Yeah, even in the 350s, the
page number 12.
Yeah,
I still set my lap. I mean, I'm not talking about on the video, but it definitely, even with the old S2000 I had, the first thing I did was put a seat in that car, wheels, tires, and put a seat in it. It makes a huge difference.
Huge difference.
Once you're strapped in, locked in with the harnesses and stuff, it's like you're like connected to the car. You can do anything you want.
Confidence is a huge thing. If you're going through a corner and you're like moving and your mind is not on the apex and what you're doing after, and it's on like, oh my God, I'm falling off my seat, you're going to lose a lot of lap time.
Yeah.
So 100%.
Like that left right at the wall, whatever that turn is,
Turn
like
8.
I'm kind of on turn 8. I'm kind of gauging how fast I'm going by how much my body is moving in the seat. I'm like, oh, I'm really going pretty fast here. I'm like halfway over my armrest. Those are true thoughts in my head. I shouldn't be thinking those type of things driving the car like that.
Courtney, what's next for you?
Probably a little power. Like headers and a tune.
Is there any particular company you want to go with? Like, have you looked at what that looks like timeline wise?
They have Bryn Speed Power Pack. Stage 2 gets it to 595 crank. Tuner, stainless works, long tube headers, intake and tune.
Is that on E85?
You can have it E85, or you can have it on race fuel or 93.
Who's the guy that we know he had the blue one? He tuned it, it blew up. Now he drives a couple Miatas.
His name's Dan.
Dan, yeah. I don't know. Don't you think that exact same thing's going to happen to your car? I mean, he was tracking it for years, and then as soon as he tuned it, boom.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe I'll hit him up and ask him about his experience there.
Not a bad idea.
Yeah. That's what's next. Something like that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Call Fat House.
Before we wrap up,
is the car.
Yeah, turbo.
Twin turbo from Fat House. That's what you should do. You'll be the only one. You'll be the only one that's tracking a twin turbo 350. And you're already full aero basically. I'll tell Curtis to get you the front splitter, but then then you might be able to like do some damage to the big boys. At 800-900 horsepower.
Yeah, I mean, have the aero.
Yeah,
might be able to hold it.
Yeah,
a little bit. No, I don't need that much. I need a little bit more because these cars were built with that wing, and which is cool and all, and the little front splitter, which is cool and all. But when you add huge aero, you're underpowered, and I believe that.
Watch him add like 300 horsepower and go 2 seconds slower.
Because I'm all over the place.
He's too fast.
And then I convert to drag racing. So
yeah.
No, that's
Before we wrap up, is there anything else that you guys want to go over in episode 2?
I'm pretty good. Yeah, I'm surprised that we we posted episode 1. It got some pretty good response, and then I think it motivated us all to say, okay, yeah, let's do it. Let's do it again.
Let's keep this up, and I think maybe even more frequent, and kind of every couple weeks, and half hour to an hour, and because we went for 3 hours, people wouldn't watch, but I think what are we at now? 45 minutes. Yeah, that's a
Roughly.
good little clip, and makes sense. Cool, guys.
Love it. All right.
Yeah. So your editor, you'll send him this. You'll send this to him.
Correct. Yeah. So the way it worked out is I went through 2 guys. They just disappeared on me, and I found this guy who was like, he will not stop. Later, Courtney.
Yeah.
He will not stop until we're happy with it. So we've made a deal. I created a Dropbox where I upload all the raw footage and everything, and he just grabs it from there. And then I just he puts it back into a Dropbox when it's ready, so that there's like no quality loss or anything like that.
Cool. And so he'll also do send you the audio so you can post it to all the podcasts and stuff.
Yep. So we have, he gave me the audio. So I signed up for, now that we have Riverside, they can post to all of the ones. Like you basically connect your accounts and they just post it everywhere.
Yeah. Great. Cool. And then I wonder if it's it probably doesn't really matter too much, but I wonder if it's worth the editor like occasionally chopping like a little shit up to like do shorts and stuff with, like
so
do a little reel or something.
He said that was like once we had enough content through a couple of episodes, he would chop those up because shorts is like the huge thing right now.
Sure. Yeah. Cool.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Courtney, and we'll catch you next time.